there any such thing as perfect technique? It's a question as old as civilization, but watching Rahul Dravid bat can make it almost redundant. What does the perfect technician care about playing conditions, home or abroad, spinning tracks and seaming tracks? Not much. This is what makes Dravid Indian cricket's Mr. Dependable.
Short and it's gone again.
Adding steel to the artistic Indian middle order.
One-day century for Rahul Dravid.
You come across someone who's very studious, who is very, very serious about his cricket, and who's always keen to learn and improve.
If you had to put or had to bet on somebody to play for your life, that would be Rahul Dravid.
Born into a middle-class family with humble aspirations, Dravid's love for sport was built in very early. By the time he was 12, he had already been spotted as a cricketer with immense potential.
Right from the time I can remember, I've always held a bat or ball in my hand. So it was always going to be cricket for me.
Dravid modelled himself after no less a man than Sunil Gavaskar. In his time, Gavaskar's defence was unbreachable, his batting the nearest to perfection it could get.
You sort of admired people like Gavaskar and Vishwanath, but I never made a conscious effort. But I think the fact that my coach stressed a lot on the basics initially growing up, sort of made a big impact on my game.
Dravid used these qualities to pile on massive scores in the domestic circuit. For 5 years, he consistently put the runs on the board till a call-up to the national side was inevitable.
That's going to be 100.
I think Rahul was outstanding. I mean, the way he batted, the way he concentrated, his preparation. I think his solid defense was something which you can feel that, okay, this guy is ready for the next level. But at that point in time, I felt that he belongs to the big man's world.
Lord's 1996, Dravid's first step in the big man's world. It was only apt that a man in the classical mold make his debut at cricket's most hallowed turf. Fellow debutant Sourav Ganguly hit an unforgettable century. Dravid was unlucky to miss it by just 5 runs.
Firstly, it was a great honor and a privilege to play for your country. It was a dream come true for me to, walk in with with an Indian team and with an Indian cap, and then to get 95 runs in that game. I would have taken that. Sure, it would have been nice to get a 5 more, but I came back from the tour with a lot of self-belief and confidence in my ability to play at the international level, and so the runs really didn't matter.
It was the perfect launching pad for the young, intense boy from Bangalore. With his rock-solid defense, his unflappable patience for the long grind, and his drive to succeed in tough conditions, India had an answer to their overseas struggles.
He negotiates the moving ball, the fast ball, much better than most of the players. He reads the line and the length perfectly, and the way he leaves the ball, which are not required to be played.
Dravid's stress on technique and patience was an incomparable virtue in white. But it was a double-edged sword when he turned out to play the shorter, faster version of the game.
There was a tough phase when Rahul wasn't doing well in one-day cricket, and then he was dropped and he made a comeback. I think that's the phase when he had a real look at his batting in one-day cricket.
But a man of such immense talent and skill as Rahul Dravid can't stay down for too long. When he was ready to be the best. In the 1999 World Cup, a new Rahul Dravid took the field. He could drive the ball with perfect elegance, pull it with disdain, and didn't hesitate to loft bowlers all over the park. He finished as the tournament's highest run getter.
If you look at pure stroke making ability, a stroke or hitting the ball ability, I wasn't the most talented, or I'm not the most gifted player in that sense. But I've made my game work for me over a period of time. I've succeeded over a period of time, and I think I've maximized my talents to a large extent.
But the change to the new millennium was rife with scandals and defeats for Indian cricket. Hurt and confused by the match-fixing saga that tore the game apart, it was time for introspection.
It was quite ugly. I mean, that period was probably the most difficult periods of my cricket, or anybody's cricket. There was a bit of loss of faith in the people.
Dravid left the Storm behind to work on his game in the English county season. When he returned, it was with a new awareness of his role in Indian cricket.
I went and stayed alone for 6 months, went away from home and just enjoyed the thing of being in another dressing room, another atmosphere, came back very refreshed and keen to look at the, at international cricket with totally different light. And I think that was a critical phase for me, a critical time for me, the stint in county cricket, which helped me sort of open my eyes to a lot more things than I was used to.
Team India was ready to build on the ruins. Saurav Ganguly was given the reins of a fresh team and Dravid was to be his trusted lieutenant. It was for them now to show a new way.
Absolutely berserk. What a terrific performance by India. Rahul Dravid, a very sensible knock from him.
They've won this one in great style. There's absolutely no...
2001. The invincible Aussies were giving a new and confident Indian team reason to feel old and worn out. 16 test wins in a row and the Aussies were hungry for more. India had been shot down in ruthless fashion in the first test. In the second test in Kolkata, India were again staring down the barrel.
He's cleaned him up here.
When Rahul Dravid walked out to join VVS Lakshman at the crease, they still needed 42 runs to avoid an innings defeat.
This time he pulls
And then, history happened. Dravid and Lakshman batted like modern-day gladiators. They batted till the self-doubt was gone, the demons were slayed, and the Aussie onslaught halted. Dravid scored 180 runs, an effort eclipsed only by Lakshman's record-breaking innings at the other end.
It really has been a masterpiece from VVS Lakshman.
Calcutta was special because when we beat Australia after following on, I think that was something that, you don't do that very often. Not many teams follow on and then go on to win a test match and then win a series from there.
I think that was the point where it really switched for him. I mean, that's the first and the last time we'll see him gesticulating so sort of vehemently towards the press box. I think that was the innings where he actually finally sort of relaxed and he said, he was able to, in the company of Lakshman, who plays at a very different pace to him, he was able to sort of almost cross that mental barrier.
India have won the test match.
Team India was soaring to new heights, from Kolkata to Headingley, Adelaide to Rawalpindi, Jamaica to Perth. Dravid's bat was scripting glowing new chapters in the history of Indian cricket. At one point during this incredible run, Dravid slammed 4 centuries in successive innings. Even more stunning, 4 double hundreds in the space of just 15 tests. Each of them resulting in historic away wins.
Well played. He was the backbone basically, around which the entire body is formed, and I think he was the backbone around which all the others could exhibit their artistry and greatness.
वो लॉन्ग टर्म में सोच के चलते हैं, ना कि शॉर्ट टर्म में. वो ये सोच के चलते हैं कि ठीक है, ओके, अभी मैं बैटिंग करने गया हूँ, लेकिन अगर मैं एंड ऑफ द डे नॉट आउट होऊंगा तो मेरी टीम को क्या फ़ायदा होगा.
Like a perfect diamond, each innings by Dravid had a different facet. Headingley was all about technical perfection, a masterclass on a nightmarish pitch for visiting teams.
It was a very grey and cloudy day. It was not a day that most captains would have chosen to bat first. I remember he took a lot of balls in his body because it was kind of nipping around and sometimes bouncing. And it did not matter to him. He would like let it come on to him, let it hit him. It didn't matter. He was there for 148 runs.
That's well played.
Adelaide was a supreme example of not wilting under pressure. India had lost early wickets, chasing a massive Aussie score. Dravid provided the fortification once again, taking India to an incredible win. In that series, his average was a staggering 123.
In a situation where we were to actually get very close to the Australian total, I think it was basically due to Rahul's phenomenal innings.
We sort of broke that myth that in the sort of invincible Australian team in Australia, they were beaten in Australia after a very long time.
Oh, magnificent.
Rawalpindi was all about the art of war, a blistering attack to score an epic 270.
This golden period wouldn't have been possible without his contribution. That goes without saying. If he had not made those runs, we wouldn't have had this golden period at all.
In Dravid, the old and the new blended seamlessly. Substance and style walked hand in hand. The anchorman at number 3 was the best ever for India in that crucial position. And he was the only Indian batsman with a better record outside the country.
We always wanted to try and do well abroad. I mean, that was one of the things that people always growing up. When I first started cricket, a lot of former players, a lot of the players in my own team said that you'll really be judged by what you do abroad, and I think that's somewhere that stayed with me.
In one-day matches, Dravid was radically adapting. With India struggling to find a good wicket-keeper batsman, Sourav Ganguly handed him the arduous job of staying behind the wickets. He was coming down the order too, completing crucial wins for India.
Once he started keeping the wickets, then he knew that if he doesn't score too many runs, he's there as a keeper as well, because I think he did a good job. So I think it made a lot of difference to his career, and yes, as you said, it gave a lot of balance to the Indian team as well.
The equation looked simple. If Dravid scored, India were guaranteed a win, and he was difficult to get out. It was the perfect combination.
If you look at the records, if you see Sourav has 21 test victories, and if you see Rahul Dravid's average in those matches, I think it's about 100. He was the most influential player in Sourav's team.
But the cool, collected and ordered world that Dravid had built around him, a world defined by the reach of his bat, was about to explode. Controversy was brewing and a new role was in the horizon. Times of change are seldom peaceful. For Team India, it was nothing less than a violent upheaval. The Chapel Sourav saga exploded like a landmine, and when Sourav Ganguly was sacked as Team India's captain, Dravid was the natural choice to fill his shoes.
Dravid wanted the captaincy as well, and he was a good man for it. He's a solid player. He led by example. In the first 6 to 8 months that he led the team, he also raised his performances even more.
Dravid had a dream start to his captaincy, winning an ODI series in Sri Lanka, a historic Test series in West Indies, the first time in 35 years.
Victory to Rahul Dravid and a series victory to India.
But behind the scenes, things were different. Stories of a divided dressing room, leaks from the team management, more public spats. Chapel's Team India looked like an unhappy and resentful side, and it showed on the field. India suffered a shocking exit at the 2007 World Cup. Rahul Dravid could hardly bear to watch.
Somehow the team sort of fell apart under him. He could not hold it together, and I think a lot of this was due to his approach as captain, and not just his but Greg Chappell's. I think Chappell was the more dominant figure.
Dravid made a comeback as captain, winning yet another historic away series, beating England at home for the first time in 21 years. But he was struggling to keep the balance between his batting and captaincy, and the rifts inside Team India were growing deeper. Dravid the batsman thrived in adversity, but Dravid the captain wilted under pressure and resigned.
Chappell should have helped him, work better with the team rather than, the way that it turned out. I mean, Chappell was just a bad manager of men. We all know the stories about the things that he said about players and so on.
It's not easy to give up captaincy. The very fact that he did give up captaincy goes to just show the man didn't want to do something against his own wishes or something he wasn't enjoying.
After a decade of untiring contributions, Dravid's bat too had suddenly stopped talking. He looked like he had become a slave to his technique, and as the failures piled up, Dravid looked helpless and haunted on the field. He was dropped from the one-day side and holding on to his test place with the thinnest of threads.
Whenever he was pushed in a corner, he never liked it. Whether it was a controversy regarding Greg Chappell, or whether it is with Sourav Ganguly, or whether it is with the selectors, and because of that kind of feeling, his batting was affected, was deeply affected.
Just when everyone thought that they had seen the last brick on the wall, Dravid fought his demons to score a match-winning 93 at Perth for an incredible win against Australia.
Just whack it.
Very popular half century as well.
that dressing room.
But his nightmare with the bat continued. Though the Indian selectors gave him a long rope, the cries to drop him grew louder and louder.
He gets out again to the most unlikely.
In December 2008, Dravid silenced his critics yet again, compiling a patient 136 against England at Mohali to put a nightmare year behind.
I would want to see him, living on a high note.
What will the new year hold for one of India's greatest batsmen, a committed team man, a keen student of the game, and a master of his craft? No matter how his career ends, the numbers will always speak the cold truth about the cool technician. Without Rahul Dravid, India's rise in world cricket would have been impossible.